All right, so problem number 1 on your homework tonight is says find the amplitude and the period in degrees, then sketch the graph using degrees. And it's this function here, y equals 4 sine of 2 theta. All right, so to find the amplitude is just going to be this number right here. So the amplitude is 4. The period is going to be the period of one full rotation around the unit circle, which would be 360 degrees, divided by this number here. So 360 divided by 2, our period is going to be 180. So we have an amplitude of 4, a period of 180 degrees. All right, now to graph this, excuse me, the sine function begins at 0. And of course, it'll be back to where it started after one period. So the period is 180 degrees. We're going to be back at 0 after 180 degrees. But remember, the sine function goes up first, comes back down, and then comes back up to complete its full period. And so it crosses the midline halfway between, halfway in the middle of its period. At 1/2 period, it's going to cross the midline. All right, now, and then the sine is going to reach its maximum halfway between these 2 points where it crosses the midline. And so it's the maximum here is going to be 4, since that's our amplitude and our midline is at 0. So about halfway here, we're going to reach our maximum of 4. And about halfway between these 2 points, we're going to reach our minimum of -4. And so the sine function is going to look like this, with a period of 180 degrees and an amplitude of 4. All right, number 3 is in radians. So let me erase this and I'm going to put some different labels on here. Instead of labeling this with degrees, we're now going to label this with radians. So this will be pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, and then pi, and then 5 pi over 4. This would be 3 pi over 2. And then this would be 2 pi out here. All right, and now our function is y equals 1/2 times the cosine of 3 theta. So our amplitude is going to be 1/2. And our period now is going to be 1 full rotation, which is 2 pi if we're in radians. So 2 pi radians divided by 3. So our amplitude is 1/2, and our period is going to be 2 pi divided by 3. All right, and this is cosine now. So cosine doesn't begin at 0; it begins at its maximum, and the maximum in this case is just going to be 1/2. And then it'll be back at its maximum after one period. So the period is going to be 2 pi over 3. So that's going to be 2/3 of the way to here. So it's going to be about right here. And then we're going to do that again after another 2 pi over 3. So that would be 4 pi over 3, which is going to be somewhere about here. And then halfway between those 2 points, it's going to reach its minimum, which will be -1, or sorry, -1/2. And so this function is just going to go like this. All right, so that's number 2. It's got an amplitude of 1/2, a period of 2 pi over 3, and it's going to look like this, just a small line there because the amplitude is so small.